my crypto portfolio that I hope is going to give me some of the biggest gains during the crypto bull market ahead. And yes, there will be a bull market. Despite all of the fear and worry you're seeing because of Donald Trump's tariffs around the world right now, you might have noticed the Bitcoin price hasn't really dropped at all. And according to this chart, which typically flashes a signal every single time we see a major event occur, we are ready to head higher sooner rather than you think. In this video, I'm not only going to give you all of the different altcoins, what I'm holding, I'm also going to tell you why there's probably less need to worry than you're probably feeling right now. So without further ado, hit that like button. Let's find out what I'm holding. Now guys, before we talk about this chart and why it's so damn key to understanding what is happening in the markets right now, let's just understand something pretty incredible. Bitcoin, just a couple of days ago, was worth, guess what, around $82,500. Bitcoin right now is worth just over $83,000, which tells us that in the past few days, where we've had probably the most catastrophically damaging news event that you could ever have imagined, which was Donald Trump bringing out probably the most outrageous number of huge tariffs across the world designed to upset global trade, the Bitcoin price has stayed static, which should give you an incredible amount of confidence. It tells you that the Bitcoin price has been suppressed for so damn long that despite all this fear and worry in the markets, actually we're at pretty much the bottom because this news event hasn't managed to rock us at all. And I want to show you this, which is a very key thing to look at. It is the volatility index for the S&P 500, the US stock market. Every time there's a huge news event that drops in the market, it causes massive volatility. Just yesterday, the S&P was down 4.84%. Giving a pretty scary looking chart. And this is recorded on the volatility index, which spikes every time a major event happens. This one, back in last summer, was around the Japan interest rate hike that caused everyone to panic and think that we were going into recession on the 5th of August. And Bitcoin on that day dumped nearly 10K down to around $49,000, causing a huge amount of fear and worry. And that pretty much signaled the bottom of the market, ready to head higher up until December time. As you can see, since then, we've had various other spikes, like this one back on the 18th of December. This caused Bitcoin to plummet from around $107,000 all the way down to around $95,000. We've then had another spike here, which was on the 11th of March, Donald Trump announcing tariffs, etc. You can see this spike here, and now you can see another spike towards the upside that was caused yesterday. Every single time I've marked on this chart that these volatile moves typically signal the local bottom of the Bitcoin price. And it all makes perfect sense. If you overlay the global M2 on top of the Bitcoin price, which is this blue line, you can see that the Bitcoin price is now starting to bottom out along with the bottom of this curve here, which works pretty perfectly, okay? It's now showing that we are starting to make our way up this side of things. Now, you might be like, well, yeah, but this line started to go up from the 30th of March. Shouldn't we be just going higher from there? Possibly. Well, if you watch some of my recent videos, then you'll understand that there's different M2s that make up the global M2. Different ones of these are basically having an impact on the price. And I recommend you watch this video if you want to see in more depth about all of the different M2s and how they affect the crypto prices. But what you should know right now is the EU M2 is skyrocketing, taking us until at least mid-June. The Chinese M2 is skyrocketing until around the end of May. Japanese M2 is starting to push higher and had a really good boost after yesterday's announcement from Donald Trump, and the list goes on. So we're looking pretty good. Somewhere around here is damn well close to the bottom of the market, if not the bottom of the market, in my opinion. I could be wrong. But after all the research I've been doing, the fact that the market is full of fear, the fact that the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index is flashing at 28 right now, tells me it's not a bad time to be holding a good portfolio of different coins. So without further ado, what are the different altcoins I'm holding? Now, I don't want this video to go on as long as my normal portfolio videos do, but I'm just going to kind of rattle through, giving some key points about why I'm holding each different coin if I have the time, so that you can understand what's going on. Now, I want you to understand this. Every portfolio should be different. We're all different. We all have different amounts of money, different responsibilities. Some of you have mortgages, some of you have houses paid off, some of you have no savings, some of you have lots of savings, some of you have kids, some of you don't have kids. Do your own thing. I'm just sharing with you my portfolio. And so, you know, this portfolio I believe to be a higher risk, higher reward play. That does mean that if we do see downside, I am exposed to seeing more pain perhaps than just holding Bitcoin alone or USDT for that matter. So first things first, I am holding more Bitcoin than I used to hold. I'm now sat at around 20%. why I have taken the opportunity to put more money that I'm making over the period of time, over the last few months, into Bitcoin. Why have I been doing that? Well, because I haven't been certain that the market's going to reverse, but I am certain that in the future, Bitcoin will be worth a lot more than 100k or 90k or 80k or whatever it is. I am certain of that, which means it's a safe bet for me to continue to load up on Bitcoin. In my opinion, of course. It also protects me to the downside because obviously if Bitcoin comes lower, I'm not going to see too much of a decline in the investments I've been making over this period of time, which allows me to stay calm. Now, after that, around 40%, taking my total in large cap coins to around 60%, is held in 3 major blockchains. Now, how have I decided on which blockchains I want to hold? Now, obviously, Ethereum has been underperforming for whatever reason. I do believe that Ethereum will go to above $10,000 during this bull market when it eventually comes to fruition. I do believe that Solana will have a killer bull market, but I've been involved in Solana since about $8. Eventually, I took profits on that and moved my money across to Sui to then see some gains on Sui. But I do believe that some of the smaller blockchains that are newer on the block will start to take some of that market share away, and that's what I'm kind of betting on. So first things first, Sui. I hold 20% of my portfolio in Sui and have been holding a significant amount since back in September when I told you I'd sold all my Solana to move to Sui. So why Sui over other blockchains? Well, according to DeFi Llama, Sui has been having a lot of activity on chain, and this will be a theme that you see throughout my video today. Lots of projects are basically proving themselves to have active users to be generating revenues, things like that. That's very key as far as I'm concerned because it limits my downside risk potential and I think still gives me huge upside. Now, Sui, as we know, has had a bit of a pullback in the TVL, but it's bottomed out and starting to push higher while the price kind of still looks a bit static. Sui sits with a market cap of around $7.2 billion, and I do think that there's upside because of that. A lot of the projects developed on Sui have been going from strength to strength, and particularly some of the new projects like Walrus that got launched just the other day by Mr. Labs, who are the team behind Sui, has also been performing extremely strongly. In my opinion, you want to be investing in blockchains that have a huge ecosystem, a strong ecosystem underneath that are driving them forward. Also, other things to pay attention to is the stablecoin volume on Sui, which you can see is pretty much all-time highs right now, doing nearly $700 million of transactions per day. This is really interesting because the stablecoin transactions were something that held the Tron price up, TRX, up significantly through the last bear market, and why I think we're seeing a lot of activity on Sui still despite market conditions being pretty down. Just looking across the chart, Sui has had a healthy pullback in recent times, down to around $2 after being up around $5.2 back around Christmas time. But as you can see, every time the market reacts positively to Bitcoin, etc. going up, Sui reacts more positively as well. How high do I think this goes? I think 10x is reasonable during this bull market, which would take it to around $70 billion. And I will give you price predictions throughout this video. It doesn't mean that they have to happen. It's just my own kind of thoughts, and I want to justify why I'm holding each and every coin. Again, guys, if you want to see in more depth these different altcoins and things that I'm holding, make sure you're subscribed to the House of Crypto, notification bell turned on, because I tend to cover these in deeper dives. I did one on Sui the other day. I will in the future do ones on Aptos and various other altcoins within the ecosystem. Okay, so if you want to know more about how to understand where the benefits come from in cryptos, then make sure you're subscribed, notification bell turned on. Now, next up, Aptos, holding around 10% of portfolio in Aptos, which has a $3 billion market cap. I'm holding Aptos because it has incredible tech, but has been underperforming. Again, like Sui, it is built on the Move programming language, which was originally the programming language written for Libra, which was the blockchain for Meta, the Facebook blockchain. Now, obviously that kind of like fell apart, and the teams from Libra then moved off, created Mr. Labs, who created Sui, and then moved off and also created Aptos. Okay, so these are two similar projects, both with kind of their unique benefits, pros, etc. Now, Aptos hasn't performed quite as strongly as Sui, and that's partly down to one of their founders leaving and becoming an advisor last year. This kind of spooked everyone a bit, but ultimately hasn't really affected the underlying tech behind Aptos. One thing that's really caught my eye, though, is the fact that Aptos has been surging towards the upside in TVL, which is a really key indicator that there is increasing activity on chain, despite the price not necessarily reflecting that. As you look down below, a lot of the projects being built on Aptos are also of top quality and also attracting lots of users. Remember, a blockchain is about creating an environment where we're going to see lots of users, lots of different different applications, etc. being built. So Aptos, with a $3 billion market cap, I think has the potential to do something like a 15x, maybe pushing as high as around $50 billion during this bull market, maybe even higher. I could be wrong. And as we can see from a chart perspective, we sit right now in this green box. Every time we sit in this green box, prices seem to go higher from here. And that's why I wanted to bring you this video today rather than when the market's been pumping for a while, because all the coins I'm talking about are all in like perfect buy zones pretty much. Now, lastly, from the blockchains, and the most recent ad that I've made is Sonic, previously known as Phantom, one of the fastest blockchains anywhere right now. Obviously, I know people like to get behind blockchains. They're like, oh, this is really fast and that's really good. Yeah, numbers are nice. They kind of support things. But to me, again, I come back to this. DeFi Llama, look at the TVL on Sonic right now. They've just gone over $1 billion, and literally every single day, this number is climbing towards the upside. Despite the fact the market is bleeding, this is showing more and more adoption happening every day. And if you come down below, you can see why. A lot of these projects over the last month have been going towards the upside. They're attracting new users. This is an ecosystem that is growing. And right now, Sonic sits there with a $1.4 billion market cap. Therefore, can I see a 10x in this? Well, if this number continues to grind up, I don't see why I can't see potentially a 15 or a 20x should things go to plan. And as we look at this chart, a lot of chop, a lot of noise, holding this kind of level of support quite nicely. Potentially can come down lower. I'm not going to tell you that no coins on this list can ever come down lower. If some drastic changes happen in the tariffs or something kind of happens that's designed to spook the markets even more, then who knows what's going to happen, okay? But we know that M2 drives the markets. M2 is going to be pushing us higher very much sooner than you think. When it comes to major news, particularly dangerous, bad news, like we've just seen come from the US, the initial reaction is always far bigger and far more outrageous than what kind of follows. Yes, obviously, tariffs will start to be reciprocated from other countries around the world. I know that, you know that, the market already knows that, which is why the S&P dumped 4.8% yesterday. This volatility index represents the splash that markets see every time bad news arrives, and after that, the pond starts to return to normal. Wow, lots of information. Okay, next up, I'm going to go down through the narratives. These are smaller market cap coins, some of them kind of bigger than others, but each and every narrative, I'm pretty much holding around 10% in AI, I'm holding 10% in real world assets, I'm holding 10% in DePIN, and I'm holding 10% in gaming. More or less in some of the different projects. The smaller caps, I personally don't hold more than around 1% in smaller cap coins. First up on AI is Tars AI. It's previously received a grant from the Solana Foundation. It is the AI architecture protocol on Solana. Now, I've been following this project for quite a long time now, and it seems to be building some significantly interesting projects. I recommend coming across and checking out each and every one of these websites before investing in anything. Don't just take my word for it. Go and check out some of the different tools and things that they are basically bringing on. They have these applications that you can now download, which are AI assistants. You can ask it questions like, why is the Aether price going up today? It's going to go across, it's going to tell me about all of the sentiment, it's going to tell me about the latest news, it's going to say that there's potential that they are going to be listing on Binance soon, it's going to give me all of the YouTube videos around Aether. Some pretty cool stuff from Tars AI right now, and this is just the beginning. This is basically a framework so that if you are building projects in and around AI onto the Solana blockchain, like I personally am with Perceptron, which I recommend you going and giving a follow over on Twitter, then people are going to start to integrate various different AI tools by using Tars AI. They were the only AI project on Solana to be invited to the Google GDC Summit, where they were talking about their real-time intelligence and various other ways in which gamers could interact with AI to enhance their experience and gameplay. They were also one of the only crypto projects to be invited to NVIDIA's GTC Inception program. This is a pretty big accolade, something that really benefits crypto projects once that AI narrative starts to run again. When do AI narratives run? Well, when the market's pumping, when NVIDIA announces results that are always insane because the demand and growth of AI right now is outstripping the supply of the market, which means prices and everything continue to rise within AI. AI is such an obvious play to me. Now, Tars AI right now sits with a $27.7 million market cap, and I don't see why a 20 or 30x isn't possible over the rest of the year once the markets start to pick up once more. And again, we've just arrived into this key support area that you can see Tars AI bounced up down here. Now, I know many people who are newer to crypto, are not really sure how crypto works, will be like, price movements like this, is this a scam? Should I be worried? Should I be concerned? Guys, crypto projects, newer ones, particularly smaller cap coins, will tend to bleed aggressively as soon as markets go sideways. Why? Because people get bored. People start to get fearful as soon as sideways action starts to play out. We can see that Bitcoin hasn't really gone down that much. It went up to 109k, it sat around 83k. That's not really much of a pullback considering what we've seen in previous bull markets. It's the time spent speculating on what's going to happen that causes the fear to develop across the markets. And then you go and bang some scary tariff news on top of it that all of the global news channels are trying to make you fearful about right now. And then things get worse in your mind. But remember, as Warren Buffett says, the world's most famous investor, buy the fear, sell the greed, and you can't go too far wrong. You probably feel worse buying into a coin with a chart like this than you would buying into a coin when it's up here. But unfortunately, buying up here is incredibly dangerous, whereas buying down here is actually a much safer move. I'm not telling you to buy TARS AI. Go and do your research into this coin and all the other coins I'm talking about before making your decisions. Now I'll just rattle through a couple of others. I'm also holding Sensei with a $5.1 million market cap. This coin got really pumped up, really excited because of retail investors. This is a platform where you can go and make your own personalized AI agents, which is going to be a common theme throughout this bull market, I'm pretty confident. But it's already been delivering various different products. People are using this to create AIs of themselves, of famous people from the past, famous people in the current day, etc. Very, very cool product, worth checking out, but the price has obviously bled towards the downside. Around $5 million right now. I don't see why this can't go to $100 to $200 million market cap, giving us potentially huge gains. But as you can see, it bleeds because it's invested in by retail investors who panic sell as soon as the market goes sideways. Now, one of my favorite AI projects is Humans AI. Market cap currently around 60 million. Again, this project saw a bit of a sell-off. Why? Again, because this appeals very heavily to retail investors. What happens when the market pumps again? Retail investors flood back. What do they buy? All the projects they bought before that came down. Without fail, they really like projects before that pumped up, and then they tend to like to go and buy the same projects again. Humans AI is an incredibly high tech. They're creating AIs for some of the world's leading companies, huge development in the Web 2 arena as well as now the Web 3 arena. This project has some incredibly big news that's coming out into the future that I'm just not allowed to talk about yet, but I will be able to soon. As we look down through the list, it's partnered with NVIDIA and also been mentioned in a huge array of different media channels, and they have a huge variety of different AI products that they're building for various different requirements, from governmental AI advisors to AIs built into companies or community AIs. And I actually am in talks right now with Humans AI to have them to build an AI agent that's going to be a better version of myself, a better influencer than me, a better researcher than me. It's going to study all of the different information across crypto. It's going to make calls to various different CEOs to understand exactly what's happening with different projects. It's definitely one of the most interesting AI projects out there right now and finds itself in a pretty healthy buy zone. Now, again, I think this can go to $500 million to potentially up towards $1 billion. Yes, prices can move down in the short term, depending on the amount of volatility in the markets. But if you understand that we're in a bull market because of all the factors I've been talking about over the last few weeks, then you can potentially understand why I'm still happy to hold these coins despite the volatility that we can see if the market dips further. Every time the market's been positive, Humans has bounced from this range and done significant moves. Once we have a sustained upwards trend, I do believe that we start pushing significantly higher than we've seen before. Okay, so that's it for AI. Quickly onto DePIN. Two projects I want to talk about. First up is Aether. Now, Aether is a huge project, recently made available on Coinbase, has been a little bit weak in its performance more recently, considering what an absolute powerhouse this is. Now, it's currently part of Binance's new listing competition, and you can go across to Binance and vote for Aether if you want to see Aether get listed on Binance. I'm also holding this because once it gets listed on Binance, it's potential for a huge push in the price. Now, they partnered with NVIDIA to be able to deliver H100 GPU power to people trying to develop AI. Now, I know that sounds like a lot. Let's put it this way. If you're trying to use standard compute power to use your mobile phone or to use a laptop, you will probably realize that you don't really need that powerful a computer. But if you're trying to build a platform like ChatGPT, for example, there's only certain types of GPU power that can do that. And they come from NVIDIA. That's why NVIDIA is now the world's largest company, having been number 10 in the world around this time last year. Now, H100 GPUs are the ones that you need to build these crazy AI projects. Aether is one of the only projects out there within crypto that has access to over 20,000 of these GPUs. And that's why Aether right now has an annual revenue of around $100 million, which if you were to look at a pure revenue perspective, would probably put this cryptocurrency in the top 10, maybe 15 coins across crypto for the actual generation of revenue. What does that mean? It means once the market starts to improve in its health, there's a very good chance that some of these projects start to buy back their token and start to ramp up the prices of these tokens significantly. They'll also have a lot of budget for marketing and things like that, I would anticipate. You can go through the website, understand a little bit more what's going on with regards to Aether. There's a note here from the CEO. You can go and see some other information here. I'm also pleased to announce that Perceptron, my own personal project, which is in the AI agent infrastructure space and will be launching in the next couple of months, is also going to be a pre-sale. So make sure you go and give us a follow on Twitter if you want to know more about that pre-sale and how you can get involved in it. has also partnered with Aether and will be a significant partner with Aether for the bull market ahead to deliver services across various different AI agents, which I'll talk about in a future video. At $241 million, considering the demand for this particular project right now, considering the revenue, I don't see why it can't go towards $5 to $10 billion during a bull market, a crazy blow-off top bull market driven by AI adoption, etc. Since being launched on Coinbase, along with the rest of the crypto markets, continue to have further downside pressure, bringing it into a kind of a healthier area here. And according to this chart, there's some buying volume returning here, probably because of this stuff with Binance. The fact that they have a very strong community voting for them right now. I believe they're in second place. If you want to go and vote for them, go across to Binance and do all that. Now, next up, with $125 million market cap, World Mobile Token. World Mobile Token is decentralizing the global mobile phone networks. Okay, you can actually go across here and you can go and buy phone plans. This is completely decentralized. You yourself, by buying tokens and staking them, will be able to earn a share of the revenue generated by this particular platform, which is pretty cool. Okay, this is the future of blockchain in my mind. I don't really care so much about Bitcoin being bought up by governments and stuff like that. It's already been overly centralized by people like Michael Saylor, and Donald Trump's now trying to centralize parts of it. I think that Bitcoin will eventually just become, you know, fought over by different governments and stuff, which doesn't interest me because it's like the normal financial system. It's exactly what Bitcoin was designed not to be, but has become. So I don't care too much about it. But blockchain technology in real world assets and blockchain technology in things that I'm actually going to use, like phones and charging your car and all these other different aspects, tells me that some of these projects are going to be hugely powerful into the future. Again, World Mobile Token has been actually selling contracts. They've been growing their ecosystem and will continue to grow in the same way as other phone contract brands around the world have been able to do. You can now buy phone plans in the US and as well over 60 countries around the world. You can buy nodes to support the network, all sorts of different things. World Mobile Token right now has a market cap of $125 million. How big can it go? Well, if it continues to grow as an ecosystem, then yes, has a huge potential into the future. So yeah, 10x, 20x, 50x, who knows? This is a bit of a kind of a wild card for me, slightly outside of what I normally cover, but I'm pretty keen on it. Now, I also hold a little bit of Peak Network, which again is a blockchain, but it's designed specifically for DePIN, okay? All sorts of different DePIN projects, backed by a huge host of different names. It has underperformed more recently. Why is it underperformed so badly? Well, it's a new project, guys. New projects underperform once the market sells off. So it's understandable why some of these top quality projects do still see dips towards the downside. Peak Network has a lot of top quality projects being built on it right now, which is why I'm pretty interested, okay? Total value of devices on DePIN, $3 billion. 50 plus different DePIN projects building on Peak Network. 6 million machines, vehicles, robots, and devices. If you want to know a little bit more about the future of crypto and the potential of blockchain technology, check out this website. Whether you're interested in buying it or not, just check out this website. Really, really interesting. Okay, so that was 10% split across 3 different projects in DePIN. Now we need to get into gaming. Gaming has been a bit of a narrative that's kind of underperformed, but it shouldn't. It's the world's largest entertainment industry, outstripping massively movies and music industry, but it hasn't really performed that strongly in this bull market yet. Why? Because we are yet to hit that full-blown altcoin season point, which means that we now have the opportunity to still get in a good value to various different crypto projects. First up, with a market cap of $324 million, is a Beam, a gaming blockchain project with a ton of different projects being built on top of Beam right now. Now, not only is Beam showing adoption with all these different projects, but it's also showing ability to build huge partnerships. Also, every time the market turns to strength again, we see Beam starting to perform more strongly. I think when it comes to games and investing in individual games can be slightly higher risk, although there's obviously good rewards there. Investing in gaming infrastructure is a much safer exposure, in my opinion, to the potential boom that the gaming narrative will see once the bull market starts to regain momentum once more. Again, as well, it's a favorite coin talked about by Elio Trades, talked about by the likes of Alex Becker. Again, once retail starts to come back into the market and Alex Becker's getting 500,000 to 1 million views on a video telling people that he's buying Beam coin, you can only imagine where it's going to go. That's a fairly underrated tactic, by the way. Focusing a little bit on what influencers have been talking about in the past and are likely to cover again, it's a pretty good indicator, because once the markets start to pick up, people will start to buy coins that different big influencers like Becker, etc. are talking. So where does Beam go? I mean, in the last bull market, we saw Gala Games hitting $1 billion market cap. We saw Mana Decentraland going up that way as well. Huge amounts of growth across gaming. There's no reason why we can't see Beam going up towards $4-5 billion market cap, in my opinion. And you might think that these are big valuations. But guys, Bitcoin's going to go to around $200,000. The whole crypto market's going to be worth something like $7 trillion, maybe up to $9 trillion during this bull market, which is so much bigger than it was before. So to be able to see some of these big valuations isn't really that crazy in my opinion. Next up, Medicaid, $15.5 million market cap, pretty small considering this is a pretty heavy hitter in terms of what they've been achieving more recently. They've just partnered with Base to build their own specific chain on Base, one of only 6 different projects to do so. Base is the blockchain of Coinbase, and if you go across to DeFi Llama, it's seen a huge injection of liquidity over the last few months, and that gets me pretty excited about what the potential is for the Base ecosystem going forward, particularly with their focus towards gaming. Okay, Coinbase again is likely to start listing projects that are doing well on its Base chain. If Medicaid starts to bring in lots of volume over on Base, then you could anticipate that there's a potential listing opportunity for Coinbase. Obviously nothing guaranteed, only speculation of course, but it does make sense to me why they might be able to do that, particularly as they've already partnered with Base. Now again, the home of gaming and AI on Base. It's basically a digital arcade where people can go and hang out, play different games, host different games, gaming competitions, etc. This again is a gaming ecosystem project with a $15 million market cap, which I think is pretty cool. They've been giving out various different rewards. They have a lot of passionate members in their community, something again that becomes the focus of my portfolio. At the moment, they're not really available on a huge amount of exchanges. I personally picked them up on Bitunix, which is linked down below in the description. If you use Bitunix, it's non-KYC, has low fees. You can get a whole host of these different small cap coins that I've been talking about. Also, if you can't find them on Bitunix, they will be available on WEEX as well, linked down below. So with those 2 exchanges, you're going to be able to buy pretty much all of the different altcoins I've been talking about in this video. So Medicaid, $15 million market cap. Let's say they continue to build their relationship with Base, etc. Potential to go $400, $500 million in this bull market, which would be a crazy valuation, something like a 50x, but I don't think unreasonable. Next up, small cap gaming gem, My Lovely Planet, $9.2 million market cap. Built by a team that was originally behind Candy Crush, the most successful mobile game of all time, with multi-billion dollars of annual revenue. My Lovely Planet has created a similar play-to-earn game, hopefully to become the Candy Crush of the Web3 world. At the moment, they've got 25,000 active monthly players. You can download this game yourself in the App Store and Google Play and see for yourself that it's actually a pretty cool game. They've recently gone live and made their game interactive with Web3, where you can go and stake tokens, play the game to earn real-world rewards, something that's going to appeal to a huge audience of gamers around the world. Another thing that you should know about My Lovely Planet that's enabled them to grow to a 1.2 million following across social media is that they're also an eco-friendly company. Every time you plant a tree in the game, they go and plant one in real life. This is something that can really help them to build their ecosystem. This has also enabled them to be able to acquire a customer at around 12 cents per customer. So for marketing costs, etc., to get someone to come and play the game, it costs 12 cents. That might seem high, but if you think about Candy Crush, guess what? They pay around $1.07 to acquire a customer. My Lovely Planet sitting there with a market cap of $9 million is a bit of a no-brainer in terms of exposure to a gaming coin. But obviously, smaller market cap coin, games, etc., can come with their own risks. So obviously do your own research before investing in anything. Now, the last narrative that I think is one of the key ones is real-world assets. Why? BlackRock have said that they're tokenizing assets. First up on the list, Ondo Finance. One of the monsters, okay? OM Mantra as well has been performing strongly, but Ondo, in my opinion, is kind of the blue chip of the real-world asset game. They've been integrated into various different chains. They have total value locked nearing $1 billion. They're basically connecting Web 2 in the finance world with Web 3 and the blockchain world. This is something that I think is going to see it grow from strength to strength in the future. Obviously, I would like to cover this in more detail. And at the moment, their yield coin has a market share of around 80%. This one, I think, is one to pay attention to, bearing in mind the amount of growth that they're seeing, particularly as we see more and more integration with finance, with the US, etc. Ondo is definitely one to watch. Again, an American company. The team behind Ondo, pretty much one of the best in the game. For the likes of Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, etc. Okay, have a look into it. Go and look at some deep dive videos on it if you so wish. Now, it does sit there with a $2.6 billion market cap, which I do think limits its upside, potentially seeing 7 to 10x during this bull market, but that's still pretty healthy. Has survived pretty well through recent downside. Also, the fact that it's partnered with the likes of BlackRock does show that it's going to probably hold up no matter what happens to the crypto market over the coming year ahead. This is Bricken, $10.9 million market cap. This allows you to go and build your own real-world assets. At the moment, they've created around $12 million of TVL, and they have over $250 million of tokenized assets that have been built through the Bricken platform, which is pretty cool, right? It's actually starting to onboard clients, starting to do some really interesting things. They've also got partnerships with various governments around the world, including the EU, which potentially, off the back of what's happening with Donald Trump, could become a bit of a power player in the world economy right now. And this could potentially reflect much better on the EU than maybe it does on the US. But the fact that Bricken is onboarding new customers all the time and creating useful products that people are actually using is what gives them my seal of approval. I'm also in talks myself with Bricken to try and build a real-world asset token to be able to invest in various different real-world assets into the future that people can then invest in throughout the bear market so that they can see returns on the kind of gains they've been making across crypto. Because this isn't just about making money in the next year, guys. It's about sustaining yourself and building wealth over the years to come. And you do that by making smart investments, not just going and buying a load of stupid crap at the end of this bull market, which probably is what many of you do if you manage to pull out profit. Now, I've talked about Lingo in the past. I still hold Lingo. It's been underperforming massively. Obviously, I do anticipate this performing well into the future. That's why I still hold it. I do think it has one of the best marketing teams, one of the best flywheels out there, and I think that's what's going to be able to bring it back to strength. Right now, it's sat incredibly undervalued around $7.6 million. I do think this is probably one of the easier 10, 20, 30x's available out there. I'm also holding some Clearpool. I'm also holding Chintai, ticker symbol checks. Sort of similar products in a way to Ondo, but again, much smaller market caps. And they have been making some key partnerships and seeing a lot of growth in their TVLs and things like that. I'm also holding RTrade, which I think is one of the coolest products out there because you can stake tokens and then you can go and buy different assets that they have for sale all the time with a 40% discount. This is like 500 grams of silver, okay? You can go and buy gold with a 40% discount. That's like money for nothing. So you can stake the token, you can go buy artwork, luxury watches, etc., all sorts of different things. RTrade, in my opinion, is one of the coolest products out there and shows a bit of capability from real-world assets and what they can bring into the future. Now, I appreciate I rattled through the end of it. In the future, I will cover in more detail real-world assets. I'll make a video about real-world assets, one about gaming, one about AI, one about DePIN. Make sure you are subscribed to the House of Crypto, notification bell turned on. Also, if you haven't already, go and give me a follow over on Twitter, okay? It's Peter_THOC. Over there, I'm talking all the time about different projects I'm buying, talking about what's going on in the market. If you want to understand exactly why I still remain incredibly bullish, go and read this thread, okay? It tells you exactly why I think we go higher from here, why all of these M2s are driving the market higher, why we can anticipate seeing one of the most crazy bull markets ahead. Do me a favor, if you got this far through and you enjoyed it, hit the like button. If you didn't enjoy it, hit the downwards like button, but thank you for watching all this way through anyway and engaging with my video. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. I will see you over the weekend. Have a great one. Bye-bye.